afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me at the back? Christine, yeah? Okay, good. Thank you. Right, I'm just going to give in alphabetical order, no particular order of importance, but alphabetical of the airfield name, or the site name, and I'll start with some acknowledgements of people who've been helping me with this, so I'm very much dependent on what I find online or in the news, and anyone who tells me. So Mike Eastman here has told me something recently about Carlisle, and the other people I want to mention are Richard Flagg from the Airfield Research Group, as is Peter Howarth, and a guy called John Wright, who's involved with the Museum of Berkshire Aviation, and Clive Edwards, who's involved with Rush Green Airfield. So, and I was also interested, I picked up a copy from Tony's office the other day of the June issue of Aerospace magazine, the Royal Aerospace magazine. There was a lovely letter about the threat to our airfields, in particular our active airfields. I can't remember the exact quote, but it just basically claimed that the loss of our active airfields and airstrips very much is aviation's equivalent to the beaching cuts in the 60s to the railway network, which I think is a very good analogy, so I thought I'd mention that today. Anyway, without further ado, there's a few more pictures of these. This is the destruction of the Woodley factory, Miles Aircraft Headquarters, just taken a few weeks ago. John Wright there's been taking regular pictures, but come on to Woodley in a moment. So first of all, Carlisle Lake District Airport, Crosby and Eden. News came out on the 24th of May that confirmed a deal agreed with Cumberland Council with the A.W. Jenkinson Group to take over ownership of the airport and its leased buildings from a company called Eskin to continue operating it as an airfield and subject to planning permission to invest £5 million in the site for long-term economic benefits. And existing tenants and airport staff will be unaffected by these changes, but they're still looking for an airline partner to help restore passenger services, which were all ended, of course, when COVID came in March 2020. So hopefully it's good news there with Carlisle. There's been a bit of a shaky wicket there, really. Fox Warren, I mentioned, I think, at the Newark meeting, Red Hill Road in Cobham in Surrey, very close to Brooklands. There's a long-forgotten dispersed site where the Vickers Experimental Department relocated in 1941 after Vickers was bombed. This is a scene building the Vickers Type 432, the Tin Mosquito as it's known, and the site was all wiped away in 1945. The hangar they had disappeared, but it was all in the news, certainly online, back in March, April time, and it was all centred on the prime greenbelt, Surrey woodland, 2.5 acres for sale with this underground bunker used by Barnes Wallis and all this kind of hyped up stuff. But okay, Barnes Wallis was slightly involved, but not directly there. But this is quite an impressive air raid shelter. I've only been in the entrance to it, but didn't want to get locked in with that open door there. But it was withdrawn from the public auction on the 18th of April. I know someone was trying to buy it and thought he'd done a deal and then was upset to find an auction was happening. But anyway, we'll wait more news. I've heard nothing since, so I think it has not been sold, or there might be more news soon. Another picture of it, just yeah, that's from St Vickers Archives showing the building in full use. There was about 200 people working in that one building, which is amazing. The bigger hangar further up the road was added later and was where the Barnes Wallis bomb was first tested. Anyway, another airfield, XRF airfield, Hibblestone, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, in Lincolnshire. BBC News Online on the 8th of June reported the first official weekend opening of a new North Lincolnshire Aviation Heritage Centre on this XRF airfield. And the site includes several original World War II buildings, including an airfield command bunker, which is a new one on me, but sounds interesting, and I've not been there for many years. Manston Airport in Kent, I think potentially some good news there, because 11 years after this historic airfield's closure in 2013, a Court of Appeal judgment on the 21st of May was issued, giving the owners, River Oak Strategic Partners, the go-ahead for their plans to redevelop and reopen the airfield as an air cargo hub. And online media reports on the 10th of June claim this will take about 4 years before cargo and passenger operations can resume there, as all the existing buildings will be demolished with replacements being rebuilt to modern environmental standards, and the aim of making this into Europe's greenest airport, apparently. Most of the existing buildings are post-war, but even the disused passenger terminal, I suggest, deserves recording for posterity before any work starts. North Weald in Epping in Essex, and I think we probably heard I reported before that Google bought the, I think about 21 hectares of this bigger airfield for £88 million from the local authority last year. Very vague about which parts of the airfield they bought, but flying was going to continue. But the latest issue of Pilot magazine, just out recently, claims that the World War two, in quotes, control tower, fire station and gatehouse are included in the land that Google had bought. And presumably the adjacent Hawker Hurricane Gate Guardian, I think I've got a picture, yeah. It's not a World War II control tower, by the way. It's built in 1952, and the Hurricane Gate Guard was unveiled by Battle of Britain veteran Tom Neal back in 2008. There's lots of nice little memorials, inscriptions for other units and people around it. That's not even mentioned, apparently, certainly in Pilot magazine. But there's no, well, I'll just say in a minute, the existing tower actually dates from 1952, and it's one of only 7 built for fighter command, a large type required for the, particularly for the start of the Cold War, and this is the best surviving example of its type. It was actually nationally listed at grade 2 in 2013. So it therefore has to be preserved within Google's new data centre complex. So we need to watch out for the planning application. If anyone hears about it before me, do let us know, because I can bet you Google will be trying to say, well, it's not that important and we can delist it and get rid of it. So we need to certainly oppose that if necessary. Yeah, just a little plaque on it. Popham Airfield, location is Coxford Down, which is the name of the location that the developers are calling it, not Popham Airfield. But I just thought I'd grab that off that's the Popham Airfield Matters website, which some of you I hope have heard about, some of you maybe have been joined, and costs £1 to join it for a lifetime membership, and they really need basically a large membership organisation so they can actually help fight with what is going to potentially come a planning application for 3,000 new homes on a very busy and popular airfield, which is very much a community asset as well. It doesn't only just have flying events there, vehicle events and everything else. So do look at that website, it's certainly got a lot of good stuff on it. And Rush Green Airfield, most of you may have never heard of it or don't know where it is, but near Hitchin in Hertfordshire, very close to Stevenage, just the other side of the A1. But very sad and unexpected news. I heard on the 9th of June, this significant post-war private airfield will close by December. It was first developed by British crop spraying pioneer Bill Boker, after he'd founded one of Eastern England's first and smallest aerial crop spraying companies with a single modified tiger moth in 1961. He acquired the airfield and some existing buildings a couple of years later, had ambitious plans to sell crop spraying chipmunks in the UK, which didn't quite come off. But he did establish Boker Aviation Services, ran a vintage aircraft maintenance shop there. After he died in 2012, the airfield was sold to a new owner with no interest in aviation and presumably will now be redeveloped. And the history and significance of this small airfield, grass airfield, deserves further research and wider recognition. Hopefully the Airfield Research Group will come to the fore on that, or people with an interest locally. But yeah, you've got classic mobile control tower there, and some of the original buildings, and the hangar in the background there. Houses half a dozen aircraft, all pretty much vintage or classic, 2 Tiger Moths, 2 Cubs, Super Cubs, and a Ronker at the front. And there's a pit special there as well, and a Cessna 182. All got to find good new homes, can't be parked outside, as some people might think. And yeah, that's a site, a view from it about 4 or 5 years ago. I was lucky enough to have a flight in the Cessna from there. Quite a short airstrip. Active deer on the runway sometimes. Or deer on the active runway, I mean. Moving on from that though, Roborough City, Plymouth City Airport in Devon. This airport closed controversially in 2011, but like Manston really. A complex situation though, the long leaseholder has now submitted plans to redevelop the site with housing and commercial properties. And phase 1 retains the runway as it is protected for 5 years by the City Council, but the future for flying operations there and the airport buildings does not look good. There's not many particularly historic buildings perhaps, but it's still important. And an online Plymouth Live news report on the 4th of June said a private individual had suddenly decided to seek protection by asking Historic England to assess the airport for national listing designation. So they're going through the process, and the Department of Culture, Media and Sports will have to respond within 5 months. But you can't list an airfield, as most of you probably know. You can try and schedule the area, but frankly I think that's just another tactic that's just going to delay the inevitable. But we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, St Morgan, Newquay Airport, Cornwall Council is now looking for a financial partner to help run the loss-making airport. I think it was in the news just the other day, I saw nationally about that. and they need to try and maximise the use of their assets, including unused land, which sounds a bit ominous. Very large airfield, as many of you know. And the large postal RAF cantilever hangar, last used by the Virgin Orbit as part of the spaceport facility, is currently sitting empty. I remember that's where Air Atlantic actually moved to from Coventry many years ago. Scampton, Alan's already mentioned it in his annual report, but I did get a bit more detail. There was some news released on the 24th of May by the, I forget who by, but basically saying the Home Office and West Lindsey District Council had agreed to a temporary dual use of this former RAF base. Details have still been finalised, but the Home Office will now retain just 10% of the site to temporarily house up to 800 asylum seekers compared to the original 2,000, and only up to October 2027. And the Council is now allowed to use the rest of the land, or a portion of the land, to pursue their £300 million regeneration of the project with Scampton Holdings Limited. And the Home Office is committed to working with the Council and Historic England to protect the heritage of the site, obviously the former home of the Dambusters, as you all know. But 2 listed hangars, the listed officers' mess and Guy Gibson's dog's grave, will all be transferred to the Council as soon as a legal agreement is in place, and the remaining listed hangars will be transferred in 2026. So that's good news from the heritage point of view, and as Alan said, the airfield sounds like it could be revived for flying again soon too. Another bit of good news, Sculthorpe in Norfolk, you've probably seen online, maybe Paul will cover it, but the relocated RAF Sculthorpe Heritage Centre reopened on the 5th of May in an original wartime American chapel on one of the former wartime dispersal sites. So they're getting a lot of social media attention now. Picture this. No. Shoreham, Brighton City Airport. I've not been there for about 12 years. I last worked with Andy Lambert there. We moved the Beagle 206 prototype up to Farnborough. And I only went back just the other day for calling in for a bit of lunch. And yeah, there's a vast new commercial warehouse complex just being completed in the northeast corner of what is Britain's longest serving operational airport. And this brand new warehouse is being marketed for non-aviation use, Panatoni Park. I've not had time to look into it properly, but apparently this all comes from when the airport lease was sold by the local authority for the next 25 years to a company called Cirrus Holdings Limited. And they're the people behind this warehouse complex. So it's right within the airport boundary, near the eastern threshold to the runway. Very busy airfield, but with housing approaching from the west as well, from the Lancing direction. One wonders, or fears for the future of that site. But we need to keep an eye out for, again, for any local, particularly any local contacts there, but let me know if you hear anything. Planning applications included. Nottingham Airport, Tollerton, as Alan mentioned as well, that's still no news since they had the, Rushcliffe Borough Council's earlier public consultation about the plans to redevelop this historic municipal airport, the second municipal airport in the country after Wythenshawe in Manchester, as Lloyd mentioned earlier. They had that consultation up to the 22nd of April. We put quite a big objection to it in on behalf of AHUK, and Alan did it through APPG as well. But apparently I managed to see that these plans have generated 158 public comments, of which 1,532 were objections, including ours. Only 14 comments were in favour of the scheme. And they were supposed to have had the planners' determination deadline on the 1st of July, which was, last Monday. But I've not seen anything other than some minor news about the site the other day. West Raynham in Norfolk, there are developments going on there. There's a new warehouse planned, apparently the Airfield Research Group have heard about it, to join 2 of the listed 1930s original C-type hangars together. They're listed at grade 2, so they'll obviously have to have sympathetic design and listed building consent. But again, I don't know much about the detail, but hopefully that will be a tasteful conversion. Wisley in Surrey, near me, very close to where I live. There was an online report on the 25th of May. Plans have now been approved by a government planning inspector for 1,713 new homes with shops and a community centre with healthcare provision on the former Vickers BAC flight test centre in use from 44 till 72. Developers Taylor Wimpey bought the site in 2020 and then appealed to the planning inspectorate, we've heard of them before, after a delayed public consultation by Guildford Borough Council. And of course they won, so basically the plans have been approved. And finally, just a few demolition, just to record that the passing of the Woodley factory, as Alan mentioned, it's just gone in the last couple of months. In May, demolition started of the headquarters building at the front of the site, and some of us had lucky enough to have a tour around it before the site closed. So this was all reduced to rubble by the 22nd of May, and the rest of the 85-year-old factory just managed to make its 85th anniversary, but that all followed in June. So I think the last bits of building are possibly still standing, but that's a sad note to end on, I'm afraid. But that's the end of my report. Thank you.